Parental narcissistic abuse is not just what happens in our childhood if we're being raised by toxic, emotionally immature, narcissistic parents. It's actually deeper than that. The way we are raised by these people formulates who we end up becoming, what we think about ourselves, what we feel deep into our core, and who we end up showing up as in the world when we're adults. Parental narcissistic abuse is an attack to the self, an erasure of the self, a war against our authenticity. But it's also a very oppressive way of raising children, in a way where children are not allowed to be authentic, to have a voice, to speak up, to have an opinion, to be a differentiated person than you. On top of all of that, and after working with so many people that came to me because of how their lives were just panning out because of that abuse, I saw two important things. That this kind of abuse not only determines how we feel about ourselves, it kind of writes out the future for us, a very limited future, a future that we are blocked of dreaming about something better. Actually, we do dream a little bit too much, to a place where we're dissociating, we're in limerence, we're disconnected and checked out of our lives. But really, we cannot hope for more because we do not know how to get it. So narcissistic abuse attacks us so much at the core of our worth and who we perceive ourselves to be, that it makes it impossible for us to go out in the world and actually go for the things that we want, because we've developed so many defense mechanisms to somehow survive abuse that now life feels difficult. Even the smallest of the things make us remind us of bigger things of the past, and defenses show up, and basically we get in our way and we can't do life. And the second thing that I noticed is that the women who came to me that had narcissistic parents were not just having the abuse of somebody who's narcissistic, but the narcissistic abuse was also patriarchal abuse, because it was the type of abuse that aligned with women being quiet, women not having, any other reason to exist rather than serve someone else and formulate their lives around others. It felt as though the girls raised under those households were already pretty much trained for what patriarchy expects them to be and how it expects them to be. In a way where, if we're raised in such an oppressive environment that is also very misogynistic because of the self-centeredness of the narcissistic parent, wanting women and girls to serve them, it felt as though we were not just programmed to obey that parent or to play small with that parent, but we were passed on the information that this is how we will survive in life. So we were being trained to survive in a world that expects us to be small, to obey, and to go ahead and live the predetermined life that was decided for us, to be chosen and to have someone's kids. And we were attached to that thing being our self-actualization, right? And so women were given a script, and then they've had to follow that script. And the end of the line, the self-actualized version of a woman was being chosen and having children, which basically puts women into this small life of just pursuing one thing that will fulfill them when they could be pursuing so many other things. On top of that, the lack of love and acceptance and unconditionality that we receive in narcissistic homes, basically we don't receive, makes it very easy for us to fall into the trap that as we heal, we will become worthy of someone's love, because we feel inherently very unworthy of being loved because we've not been loved unconditionally. And in that narrative, what has been happening in the past few years, that healing has become much more popular, is that we've allowed patriarchy to infect the idea of healing again, and make it so that when we heal, we will be deserving of a better love, of a better man. We will attract the healed man. So again, women have a new goal, pursuing healing just so that they can find love. Now, I'm going to be teaching you a lot of things on this channel, a lot of things that I learned through my work, through my studies, through my clients, and through my own personal work. But I'm never going to teach you how to get a man, because I don't believe that your life is that limited that you have to learn how to become better so that you can attract the love of anyone. If anything, what I want to teach you here is that you do not have to work for anyone's love. And most importantly, that you do not have to work for your own love. Because we're starting out with women, they come to me, right? The wound is the love they didn't get from their parents, which then extends to the love that they don't get from the partners that are unable to meet them. But what it truly boils down to is the love that they're not able to give themselves because of how unworthy they feel deep down. My idea with this channel is to help you understand that the abuse that you went through is not something that will be fixed by either those who abused you or any man that's going to come in the future and love you out of your trauma. What I want to teach you is that the abuse that you went through is actually so deep and has formulated your entire life and has affected every single area of it and has also pre-written the limited future that you have for your life. The things that you cannot aspire to have or are never going to be able to have because of all those negative beliefs you have about yourself and the world, about all these fears, all these defenses, and also the fact that since you spend most of your life trying to survive, you didn't learn how to do most things. You're a perfectionist, which means you rarely are allowing yourself to fail, which means you rarely try to do new things, which means you're stuck and you don't try to do the things that you dream of doing, right? So in essence, all of that abuse is not about what happened then so much, because what we're really interested is what is happening now and how is that affecting your future. My idea of how people, everybody and anybody can heal post-parental narcissistic abuse is that they have to, what I have sort of phrased into, they have to rebuild themselves. It's a restoration of ourselves, of the concept of the self that we are, and also the person that we exist as in this world. So through my work, I created a framework that I call self-restoration process, which puts healing into different parts, because I believe that so many of us are very confused. When we start healing, we think, I'm going to heal, and then all of a sudden I'm going to live the life of my dreams. And that's just not it, because of how the process of healing works. We can't do it all at once. Although on social media, you may be hearing that once you heal, you attract everything you want. Life is amazing, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that if you've been doing healing work for quite a while, you will have seen that that isn't really the case, and you are blaming yourself, but don't. So according to my framework of self-restoration, I have 3 phases. It's heal, grow, and self-actualize. The most foundational and important phase is heal, which is the phase where we are dealing with our past. We're healing our past, which means we learn how to do inner child work, we parent ourselves, we heal our wounds, we learn how to deal with our triggers. But a lot of that work is subconscious mind work, where we are going towards our past and we're recovering past versions of ourselves stuck in time, stuck in trauma, and we're bringing them all back and creating wholeness into who we are. That is the foundational work that every child that has been abused by a narcissistic parent has to do, because of several reasons, but I will just only name a few here. The most important reason of doing this work, of the subconscious work of going back to our past, is to validate our story. Your chronic invalidation from your parents made it so difficult to even allow yourself to have the experiences that you're having. So you being the one that validates your story is very empowering. And it makes you feel finally that you're not crazy. And that is a sensation that you've been trying to find and you've been trying to get validation for all your life, but possibly you were trying to get it from your abusers, which of course I'm never going to give it to you. And I have videos that I explain as to why that's not going to happen. The other reason why this work is very important is that as you witness that unwitnessed pain, that you become the witness that validates, then you develop empathy toward yourself. And that is something that was missing. You've never been able to have empathy for yourself because you've not been shown empathy. And not only you've not been shown empathy, you've been shown what I dare to say almost hatred, which probably helps you understand why you hate yourself so much. So we are changing the way we're looking at ourselves. Which brings me to the third important thing that happens when we do our healing work, is that we're able to look at ourselves through our own eyes of today and not through the broken reflections of our emotionally immature parent that just projected onto us the parts of themselves that they hated, right? With no empathy and with a lot of hatred. And the fourth really important thing that happens through this process is we become able to hold space for ourselves, our experiences, our emotions, and our pain, which means we're no longer in avoidance. And the moment we stop being in avoidance, it means we are growing in capacity to deal with life, which then makes it more possible for us to go for the things that we want, even though they're uncomfortable. And through this process, we're also learning how to be with ourselves, which is what we call reparenting, so that when we go through these processes of hardship, instead of being horrible to ourselves, we're kind to ourselves. We're supportive. We basically, through this process, become the person we needed when we were a child. And as that person, embodying that person and the energy of that person, we retrieve the parts of ourselves that were stuck in the past, and then we bring them into wholeness and we integrate them back to ourselves. And then through that, we live our lives. Instead of feeling shattered left and right, reacting to things that happened in the past, now, many, many years later, feeling lost, feeling confused, and hating ourselves. But all of that journey, right, with going back to the past and bringing ourselves back to wholeness and reparenting ourselves and then having more capacity and space for ourselves and validating for ourselves, ultimately brings us to the realization, to the actual visceral realization that we are worthy. So that none of what happened to us had actually anything to do with us. And I can say that to you all day long. And I was reading about that all day long. But it wasn't until I was able to actually go to my past and activate those memories and actually see myself and remember myself that slowly, I began to see my value through a lens that I wasn't capable of grasping before. Because we were never taught to be worthy. We were only taught to chase our worth. And this is where it all ties out with how women show up in the world post-parental narcissistic abuse. If they come out of these households feeling viscerally and totally unworthy, trained only how to perform for love and validation, they're falling into this beautiful system that patriarchy set up, that we are only as good as, we're only good enough if we are validated by a man, which means that we pursue being chosen so that we feel validation, so that we can feel worthy, and we can rank ourselves high up in the sort of hierarchy of who is the best in this system that is actually working against us and against our freedom. My main goal is not to discourage you from making any sort of traditional decisions, because that may well be a very good choice for you. But my biggest intention is that whatever it is that you decide as a woman is a decision that you take for yourself and from a place of worth, not of chasing validation, not of fears, not of trying to prove anybody wrong or prove anybody right. That you take the agency of your life and that you realize that a self-actualized woman is so much more than what you've been told, and that you have permission to experience your one and only life the way you want to experience it, and you deserve as much. And through this space, you can then decide whatever it is that you want. With the women that I work with in my one-on-one containers, usually come to me very burned out of trying to find love. And a lot of them are very successful. They can be doctors, they can have really fancy jobs in the government, but they feel like failures because they've not been able to meet patriarchal standards that would deem them good enough. And so we are not even looking at the amazing things that we have done that will benefit the world in so many fabulous ways, and also give us financial power, right? Give us some financial safety. But instead we feel unworthy and not good enough, and that something is wrong with us because we didn't comply. We didn't become good enough for the system to absorb us the way it has absorbed everybody else. And I will argue and say that in this day and age, being chosen is not really so much of a flex. It can be a type of conformity. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't pursue partnerships or want them, or want to have kids or not want to have kids. The idea is that women exercise their power of choice out of a place of agency and not fear, and out of a place of worth. And all of this deconditioning and deprogramming that a woman must take in order to set themselves free and actually enjoy their lives for themselves, and to stop editing themselves, or stop trying to be who they're supposed to be, stop trying to please everybody, stop trying to perform, just show up and live their lives in their full capacity that actually fulfills them, not because of society, but because of their true and aligned desires. That is the freedom that so many women did not have before us. And so many women, although have this freedom, perceive it as a jail, as a prison, as a punishment. And I'm here to let you know that your life is so valuable, and what you have to give to the world is so valuable by just existing in your fullest potential without even doing this as a thing that you're serving against your own sort of life. No, just existing in your full power is going to benefit the world immensely. And that's the beauty of being a woman, the healing power of existing as a person who is free. You will inspire other people to be free. Existing as a person in the power, you do the same for others. Existing as a person who is confident, safe within themselves, self-assured, and it feels worthy. You just, the aftermath of that is incredible for everybody around you, all the other girls that are coming. Everybody in the world will benefit from women finding their power. Everybody except patriarchy, except the structures that were made to oppress you. In the same way that narcissistic parents are the only ones who don't benefit from their children gaining back their power, which is why so many of you are still trapped in these dynamics with your parents and with the world and society at large. The idea behind everything I do is that if we become brave enough to look through our past and to do our healing work, if we heal our childhood trauma, at least the basic important stuff that open our eyes, right? To reveal to ourselves who were we, what happened to us, the roles we played, how we were conditioned, the relationships with these people that we had, our biggest wounds and all of that. And when we go through that process, we then emerge as a grown adult that then moves on to the next phases of my framework, which is we grow, we actually put things into practice, and we start living life, and we set goals, and we sort of show up in ways that we've not been able to do that before. And then we move on to self-actualization, where we're living in full alignment with who we are, right? We're authentic, we're aware, we're purpose-driven, we're growth-oriented, we're capable of deep connections because we've been able to deeply connect with ourselves. We're not conforming, and we are creative, and we're alive. So this is what I want for you. I want you to be free. And this is what I do with the women that I work with in my one-on-one container. But also I created a hypnotic experience, which is something that you do at your own time. I created hypnotic sessions that you sort of have to go through in the journey of going back to your worth. And you do that at your own pace or in 21 days as you wish. The program is on drip, and then you get the sessions, and then you work through them. And it's tough work. It took me years to sort of organize and do for myself, but also organize and do for you. But the reward for healing, it's not a man, it's not love, it's not a present from the universe, but it's a beautiful gesture for yourself and who you used to be. That she deserves someone to show up for her. She deserved someone to treat her with kindness and empathy, someone to admire her, someone to be kind to her, someone to nourish her, to help her grow into the woman you were meant to be. But since your parents didn't do that, and since society doesn't let you do that because now you're chasing and you're trying to be loved by men, no matter how successful and incredible and knowledgeable you are and how incredible you are, now at least you can do it. You go to the past, bring that girl and teach her and parent her back into her worth, because she deserves that. You deserved that, and this is just long due, but it's never too late. It's never too late to find our way back to ourselves. Never too late. It's always worth it, because we're worth it, evidently. And the biggest sort of testament of how much we value ourselves is in our willingness to go and retrieve those parts of us and allow ourselves to experience the pain that was never experienced, and see the things that we never allowed ourselves to process because we couldn't, and become the parent that we needed and never got. So this is what I want for you, and this is what I'm teaching here. And I hope that you stick around for the ride. If you want to check out my program and my one-on-one mentorship, you're going to find links below. But I want you to remember something, because I think you've forgotten how incredibly worthy and valuable you are in this world. You didn't come here to perform. You didn't come here to play roles. You didn't come here to fit into the narratives, the stories, and the scripts of others. You came here to be truly and unapologetically yourself. And you finding the courage to do that is the biggest gift you can give, both to yourself and to the world at large. So, are you ready to become the woman you're meant to be? Because I'm ready to teach you how.